Today we will be looking at classification of organization structure, where first we will be looking at line organization. What is a line organization? Actually, line organization refers to a direct chain of command through which authority flows from top to bottom. There is a straight, unbroken line, and all orders and communications flow down the line. So, every superior has complete command over his subordinates, and every subordinate is directly accountable to only one superior immediately above him. Therefore, you have unity of command. Each department is self-contained, as the subsidiary service functions are under the charge of the departmental head. There are no separate advisory or staff units attached to it. All persons on the same level of authority are independent. Okay? So that is a line organization. So we call it also a scalar organization. So what are the merits of a line organization? First, if we look at the merits. So there are various merits. For example, it is very simple form of organization. So no complexity is there. Everybody can understand. Then secondly, quick decisions can be taken, as each executive has full authority for a job required. Decisions can be made easily and quickly. Necessary instructions can be quickly transmitted due to direct and simple lines of communication. Then unified control. Just now we talked about unity of command. Line organization facilitates unified supervision and control because each subordinate reports directly to only one superior. The superior has direct and close contact with his subordinates. It also conforms to the scalar principle of organization. Interdepartmental coordination can be achieved through personal contact between the managers of the different lines. Then discipline. Unity of command and unified control brings about discipline within the organization, and there is no division of loyalty and no danger of conflicting interests. Each position is subject to control by its immediate superior. Then fixed responsibility. There is clear-cut division of authority and responsibility. Each member of the organization knows from whom he gets orders and to whom he is accountable. Therefore, every manager can be held fully responsible for the results, and this is very, very good thing, because when you can make somebody accountable, then work will automatically be more streamlined, be done in a more disciplined manner. Then economy. Line organization is less expensive because we don't have any specialists attached. Then you have executive development. As the various managers have to combine among themselves the expertise of the staff, there is overall all-round development of the managers concerned. Then a manager has control only over the subordinates of his department. So this is easier to do. Then flexibility. Due to coordination between the topmost authority and bottom line authority, there is a lot of coordination among the various people who are working in the organization. Since the authority relationships are clear, line officials are independent, and can flexibly take decisions. So these are some of the merits of a line organization. Now let us look at the demerits. What are the demerits? For example, overburdening is there. In line organization, key executives are overburdened with administrative work. So when you have more administrative work, less time is available for reflective thinking, as their energies and time are consumed in operating details. A single executive cannot meet the diversified and varied demands of his department. So this is a demerit. Second is lack of specialization. A particular manager has to perform all types of activities concerning his department. Now he is not doing the same work again and again, and therefore he doesn't specialize in doing that particular work. So lack of specialization reduces the effectiveness of management and the efficiency of operation of the organization. Every manager is likely to become jack of all trades but master of none. Then difficulty in staffing. It is difficult to recruit and train executives who can perform the diverse functions of a department. Because of many functions that are involved in any department, it is very difficult to find people who have so many talents. Then autocratic leadership. As one executive controls all the activities of a department, sometimes there is danger of him being autocratic, and whatever decisions are taken, that has to be accepted by all. So sometimes that is a disadvantage for the entire organization. It may lead to red tapeism, it may lead to nepotism and favoritism in the organization. Then instability. Line organization is rigid and not flexible. The success of the enterprise depends on a few key executives only. There is little scope for expansion of business beyond their capabilities. Loss of key executives may result in downfall of the organization, as their position cannot be filled easily from existing personnel. Then we come to line and staff organization. Now what is the line and staff organization? Now in line and staff organization, we have staff specialists who are attached to the line actually. So specialists are attached to line managers to provide specialized services and advice and information on specific managerial problems. Staff personnel are experts in their respective fields. They are purely of advisory nature and have no power of command outside their own departments. Generally, the substantive functions which directly contribute to the overall goals of the organization are classified as line and others as staff positions. So in this, what is happening is that to every line manager one specialist is attached. For example, you have a foreman, and to the foreman you give support. Somebody else is giving support to the foreman as a specialist. He is advising the specialist. For example, in our democracy also, in our country also, we have the chief minister, but the chief minister himself doesn't take all the decisions. He is advised by the secretaries, the company secretaries, the other type of secretaries who give advice to the chief minister, and based on their advice they take decisions. Now, what are your merits of line and staff organization? First of all, you have planned specialization. The line and staff organization provides the benefits of planned specialization. You are planning. There is bifurcation of conceptual and executive functions. Line managers are relieved of the housekeeping job for which they lack time and skills. They can concentrate only on the executive functions, and they get expert advice or counseling from the specialists. Then balanced decisions. Staff specialists, since they are experts in their particular fields, they give adequate information and expert advice at the right time to the line executives, which in turn makes the decision better. Then discipline. Unity of command is maintained. Staff cannot issue instructions to subordinates in line departments. So they don't have any power. So there is direct chain of command which facilitates discipline and control. Then undivided responsibility. Each line manager is fully responsible for the results of his department, and therefore he is accountable for the work that is being done in that particular department. And so he tries to put in his best. Flexibility. There is greater scope for growth and expansion. General and specialized staff can be employed at various levels to help the managers cope with the additional work. Then we have executive development. Since in line and staff structure, there is ample scope for efficient personnel to grow in the organization, because due to a large number of responsible positions, promotion prospects are high. Staff service provides an excellent training ground to the managers, and therefore there is a lot of development of the executives. Now, what are the demerits? The demerits are sometimes there are conflicts between the line manager and the staff specialist. There is a danger that staff may encroach upon line authority and line may ignore staff advice. So jealousies and friction may rise between the line and the staff. Then lack of coordination. In practice, it is very difficult to make a clear-cut allocation of duties between the line and the staff executives. Lack of well-defined authority results in confusion and lack of coordination. Teamwork and harmony of effort may suffer. Ineffective staff sometimes. Staff men may not be perform their job well because they are not accountable for the results. Staff may be ineffective because it lacks authority to get its advice or whatever they want to do to be implemented. Therefore, the staff may become ineffective. Expensive. Line and staff structure is more expensive because you have to appoint line managers also and also specialists. Then lack of creativity. Line managers may depend too much on the staff, and this may impede their development, their personal development. Like for example, this may dampen their original thought, judgment and initiative on the part of the line executives. Staff specialists may be blamed for recommendation unsuccessfully implemented by the managers. But actually, in bigger organizations or middle time organizations, this line and staff structure is more popular. Actually, sometimes what happens is small organizations begins with a line structure only, and then it goes to line and staff. So the striking feature of line and staff organization is that each person receives specialized advice and service without being asked to be accountable to more than one superior. So therefore this is more effective, and for any big organization this is very, very important. In the next video we will see the differences between the line and staff organization and the other types of organization structure.